Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Called the RCMP.
They're okay.
So listen to me carefully.
Okay.
Called her, and I told her that there are people that need to get back on the farm.
Okay, right at the moment, just 1 second, right at the moment they're shooting our ostriches in the kill pen. So everybody on the road is now my second priority.
I know. I get.
I love you. I love
Katie.
you.
Oh my God. Jesus fucking Christ. You know what? I'm so sorry, Katie. You know, I'm so sorry. You know what? I'm gonna call. Can I call you tomorrow?
Yeah.
Katie, I love you, okay?
I love you.
Please be strong, okay?
Yeah.
You know, this has broken my heart.
I love you.
And you know what? I am so sorry. I'm gonna call you tomorrow, okay?
Okay, please, bye-bye. Please do, bye-bye.
Did you get stuck on the other side of the fence?
No, he was on this side.
Recently?
Well, I had talked to him when we found out.
Breaking. It sounds as though gunshots are being heard at the pen. I had to fight my way to get back on the property near the farmers, so I'm unable to film at this moment what's happening from the highway. We're going to get to Katie right now as she reacts.
Please stop! Stop! Stop killing them! What do we have? What do we have? What do we have in Canada anymore? What do we have when we allow this? What do we have? 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 What are we left with? What do we have anymore? No! Stop! Stop!
Tell me to do something. Tell me what to do and I will do it.
I know, Rock. Make it stop. 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 Stop. Make it stop. Make it stop. Why is this like a nightmare? Just wake up from it. Just wake up. Just wake up from Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening?
Katie,
Why
what
is
did
this
your supporters
happening?
tell you from the other side, the
Why is
ones
this
that can
happening?
see the pen?
Why is this happening, Trina? Why is
I'm
this
so
happening?
sorry, Katie.
Why is this happening? This is our life. This is our animals. These are our babies. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening?
Don't film her, please.
Why is this happening, bro? Why is this happening?
Don't give a fuck about us, man. They don't support us.
Very emotional. I don't know where Karen or Dave are. This is just right after they were separated from their supporters as well, which was very hard on the farmers to be separated from the animals, and then from the supporters, some who have been here for 10 months in this battle, volunteer. So a call came in from one of their supporters, Jody, who said that they have begun shooting. I can't see it because the police are blocking the road, but we will find footage for you. And I don't know, maybe I'll make my way there. It's hard to be in two places at once. Sid is making his way down here, coming as safe and fast as he can, lawfully to get here. I can hear it. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but we can hear what appears to sound like gunshots occurring. And I'm going to film some of what's going on now and then also make some texts while I'm doing that to people who are on the other side, to see if I can get a description for you soon.
First rule of effective storytelling for broadcast journalism or internet journalism is start with your strongest video. It has the most impact, generates the most views. It's the most engaging, and it keeps people's eyeballs glued on the screen. I'll be right back.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Did you know James Watson, genius, man who helped discover the double helix for DNA has passed away? Probably not. I didn't know until somebody sent me a link. Everybody's talking about the ostriches. Tonight, we'll talk about that. The ostriches and James Watson. We'll also talk about a photographer still with us, but taken into hospice care. He was a military photographer who has brought to us, through his work over time, a very serious warning about the proliferation of nuclear weapons. Mike McCarrick sent me a link to a very short documentary style, biographical style video of this gentleman. We're going to bring you that tonight too, because we'll bring that to you later in the broadcast as part of Maverick Midnight Matinee, because this is movie night, and it's an extremely important video that I think will resonate with all of us. Something that everybody should see. Sorry, I'm just losing track of my tabs here as we kind of cue things up. You know, it's never been really about the ostriches out of that farm. I feel sorry for a lot of people tonight. Oh, and by the way, the name of the photographer, Ken Hackman. So we'll bring you something that I'm certain will stay with you for the rest of your life after you watch it. It instantly left an imprint on my brain when I watched this short video that I'm going to share with you later tonight about nuclear weapons. In addition to that, the Liberal government surviving second day of debate on the federal budget, second vote of confidence. So they're holding their own and gaining ground as conservatives cross the floor and abandon their party. There's turmoil in caucus. The Conservative caucus, Poilievre, under pressure as leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. We'll get into that a little bit tonight too. But man, this ostrich story, like I say, it is not about the darn ostriches. Never has been. I'm going to show you tonight what I'm talking about. You're going to hear it here, and you ain't going to hear it anyplace else. Because people are so immersed in the emotion, they're missing the real story. I will say this, just heading into this story, that this ostrich protest has been, I think, especially when you consider the big picture, the circumstances surrounding it all, it has been probably the most effective animal rights protest, one of the most effective political protests I've ever seen. Probably, just in terms of scale, doing a lot with a little in the information war sphere or ecosystem. It has been a demonstration of high-level marketing skills, high-level political activism, a lesson in how to use media, new form media, social media, AI, algorithms, effective storytelling, social media messaging management. It's been very skillful. And that alone sends up huge red flags for me. It did, early on. But wow, has it been effective? And they got all the, the social media streamers, well, most of them, yours truly exempted. It's sort of to come on board, toe the line. They tried to get me, but I was like, no, I do my own thing over here, and your $20 donation ain't going to buy me off. Of course, they were offering how many thousands? $10,000 to police officers last night over megaphones, offering to bribe them to walk away and turn in their badge and join the protest, abandon their post. Yeah. But again, not about the darn ostriches. Now, as I was running the opening clip, that was last night at Universal Ostrich Farm, Edgewood, British Columbia, where the Canadian Food Inspection Agency was at that time proceeding with a cull of the farm's ostrich flock. How many birds are out there? I don't know. Farm didn't know. CFIA said about 330. And they proceeded with the cull overnight using professional marksmen, as the CFIA indicated, to cull the birds, saying that that was the method they chose because other methods, I guess, were not practical given the remote location and the circumstances surrounding the entire political protest out there. So they were doing this at night because I told you, did I not tell you what the protesters would do? And I'm not against protesting. I'm just telling you what they were. I told you what they wanted to do. I told you what they were going to do. And indeed, they did this last night. They made every attempt to shoot video in whatever fashion they could. So the CFIA responded by putting up the big hay bales to obscure view. They did it in the middle of the night in the dark, so that hang on a second here. Yeah, they did it in the middle of the night in the dark so that they wouldn't have clear shots from, the surrounding elevated mountainous areas there. Shoot with getting, super zoomed in footage of the call taking place because the streamers wanted, in the worst way, they wanted to live stream the bloodbath, to put it on social media, have it spread everywhere. So last night, of course, RCMP began blocking off roads, restricting access, pushing protesters back. As you saw, they separated the protesters from the farm owners. They were dividing the people up. They were controlling the area to prevent access for both safety, because guns were being fired, and because I'm certain they didn't want the protesters to be able to shoot video and live stream the cull. The language being used, of course, murder. They were murdering these birds. They were personifying them. And that's the way it was going down last night. My view on this was I didn't run the gunshots. I could have come on live and picked up those streams and, clipped them or whatever and brought you the audio, but I wasn't doing that in real time because it's distasteful. I know that it can be disturbing to some people, but that's what they want, you see, because on the protester side, everything has been, the whole argument has just been based on emotion. Personify the birds, turn them into, in people's minds, human beings, people. The farm owners throughout this have been saying there are babies, as though they gave birth to them, to these birds, and they've humanized them in the minds of the people who are fully immersed and deep down into the ostrich rabbit hole. So you become emotionally involved, and that's what they've been doing. In my view, then what they've done, it's not just my view, this is what they've done. This is exactly what they've done. And then they've traumatized everyone, as many people, as many Canadians as they can, by making you care for the birds as though they're pets when they're livestock and research animals that were injected over and over again with COVID antigens. But I digress. But they got people emotionally attached just to the even idea of these birds, that they have rights, that they're like on par with human beings, which they're not. They don't actually have rights. We've discussed that. And then they kill them. Honestly, let's face the reality here. The protesters were in a no-lose situation. They knew that going in. They created this story. It's a manufactured news story. There are other culls going on right now. I think 5 in Manitoba. At least I think there's 1 or 2 others in BC alone. A whole bunch in the United States. Are they out protesting those culls? No, only this one, because this is where the focus is. Granted, not all these other farms are ostrich farms. Mostly are their chicken operations, but we've seen animal rights protesters protesting at chicken operations before. And that's what these people have become out of the farm. They're animal rights activists at this point. They resemble the freedom movement, and for the many people out there are from the freedom movement, but they've been rounded up, co-opted, turned into animal rights activists for the purpose of this protest. And you see, they couldn't show the cull because it was done at night. They couldn't get good shots. So I haven't seen any footage, at least not yet, of the actual cull. I don't know if anybody out there managed to get around the security and the roadblocks to videotape any of this stuff. I haven't seen any. But what we did see is videos of the screaming and the crying and the hysterics. We've seen the tears turned on from time to time. And it's not just what they show you, but it's what they don't show you. There's another video out there of, and again, Rebel News engaging in political activism out at that farm, not just reporting political activism. They're on the protest side. They tell that side of the story. They tell you the other side. Well, that's that side. They're only telling you that side, and they're taking a side. So that's not, unbiased journalism. That's activism journalism. There's a difference. I'm not saying it isn't a form of journalism. It is. They're recording the event, but from a certain perspective, and they're pushing an agenda. You need to be aware. And and there are multiple objectives that have been achieved through this protest. Fundraising. They've raised, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars as a result of all of this. Fact. I'm seeing, at least probably close to, well, just the one alone was well up around 280,000 or something in that range. Maybe over $500,000 in total raised, and through various organizations. Derek Sloan, I think, was doing a fundraiser. BC Rising doing one. Rebels raising money. The streamers are all raking in money. They're all taking in cash. That's just one aspect of it. And all of it's fueled by the tears. The emotion, because that's what, honestly, that is effective storytelling. No question about it. I don't blame them a bit for doing that. I'm just pointing out that that's the technique being used. Government side, it's been legal arguments. It's been news releases. Really, nobody with a face has gone on camera from the CFIA to do interviews that I've seen. It's just been a digital media release out, printed or just in digital form. And it's been legal arguments, which are dry, hard for people to understand. And I told everybody, I didn't think the Supreme Court challenge would be heard to the Cull order, this appeal, because the legal arguments at every step of the way from the farm just have not held up in court from a legal perspective, because the legal questions are completely different from what the farm is portraying in the media, which is that they're healthy now and you shouldn't be doing it. And maybe those are valid arguments. You can argue that until you're blue in the face, but because of the way the law is written, it was a question of what the situation was back in December, and the farm has used lawfare to delay things all the way along, refusing compensation from the federal government, turning it down, turning it into a political protest, anti-government protest. Really, that's what it has become. And it's still ongoing, even after these birds now have been culled overnight by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. That's truth. Nothing I've said is incorrect. People are losing their minds. Here's and it's being exploited for political reasons, even in the House of Commons by, of course, the Conservatives, because they're trying to use this as a way to smear the Liberals. So they're taking advantage of it. Who is this? This is Conservative MP Scott Anderson. I'll run his clip here. This is what he had to say in the House in the wake of the call overnight.
The Supreme Court ruling yesterday removed the last chance these decades-old ostriches had, and I sympathize with tens of thousands of Canadians who have been caught up in the drama unfolding on a farm in Edgewood, BC. For the past 10 months, this Canadian Food Inspection Agency operation has disrupted life in the peaceful town of Edgewood, BC, driven the farm deep into debt, and cost Canadian taxpayers millions of dollars in police overtime and agency costs. Perhaps most chilling has been the silence of both the Liberal Minister of Health and the Liberal Minister of Agriculture. They allowed this to drag out for far too long, keeping Canadians in the dark and even laughing at the plight of these people. Mr. Speaker, this is not how our government should treat our citizens. We still live in a democracy despite the Liberals' best efforts, and Canadians deserve to know what and why our government is up to.
Like I said, farm owners were offered compensation, $3,000 a bird. That's market value. That's about what they paid for them. And they said no. Bird flu came through. They tried to hide it. That's fact. Facts don't care about your feelings. They haven't been really honest. Out of the farm, they're sharing selective information. They stop talking about the COVID research. Very inconvenient. They don't talk about the World Economic Forum endorsement and promotion on their website of the COVID antigen and antibody research that they were doing out of the farm. It just doesn't fit the convenient narrative. I've talked about all of this. At this point, honestly, it doesn't even matter what I say. I know that, because emotion trumps just about everything, especially at a moment like this, where people just only want to hear what they want to hear, especially when they get angry. And if you are invested and you think that you have the truth and somebody challenges that truth, especially if you're deeply emotionally involved in it, and if you've been told that, the other side's everything they tell you is a lie, then when something comes along to challenge what you think what your reality is, if it blows that up, people get angry. They don't want to. So I know a lot of you out there tonight don't want to hear anything I'm saying. You want me to follow. I have a bunch of messages on my phone. Angry people losing their minds over me, like it's my fault that these birds have been culled. Outright, The language. I guess I'm an ostrich hater. No, I'm not. But I'll tell you the truth. Can you handle the truth? Yeah, I don't so not so sure. I don't know if I have the full video here. Um, Here, watch this. You know, like people losing their minds. I watched this stuff overnight yesterday. I've been watching it for months. I've been involved in it, just on this side, reporting on it. Um, there is something like there's some things that have snapped in people's minds because the what they've done out of that damn farm is cruel. I'm not talking about the government side. That's a whole different story. You want to talk about whether the stamping out policy of the CFIA is effective or if it should continue. Fine. Let's have the discussion about that. Fine. But what these people running this information war campaign on the ostrich farm side out there have done is they have been abusing you. They've been abusing people. They've been playing mind games with you. And it's cruel. That's one of the reasons I've been sitting in this chair all this time, every single night. I've been opposed to that. They're taking you down rabbit holes. I'm trying to bring people out of rabbit holes. It's psychological manipulation. It is what they did to you last night was abusive. And they've done it on purpose. They got you emotionally invested in those birds to the point where you really cared about them. In your mind, in your psyche, you think those birds have rights, like rights on par with human rights, which is an insult to human beings, which they do not under the law. They do not have those rights. Human rights are limited in order to protect animals, to prevent people from being cruel to animals, but the animals themselves do not actually have rights, even though you have animal rights activists, and that's what these people have become. Nevertheless, what they've done to you is because you care about them so much, and because you think of them in human terms now because they gave them names. I don't think they actually named them before, but they did during the protest so that you got emotionally involved and attached to them in a humanized way. And then they used effective storytelling, ramped it all up, made the government look evil as they were, proceeding with enforcing the law. And then last night, they wanted to show you that bloodbath in the worst way. The more upset they could make you, the better. The whole time I've worked in media, I've tried to be responsible, knowing that showing people certain things can, especially horrific or disturbing things, can be psychologically damaging. You see, so don't show dead bodies in car wrecks. I've seen so many dead bodies in smashed up cars. Shot a lot of video of it and didn't use it. Lots of video online these days of people being killed in war zones. I try not to use that stuff. Other streamers do. They build bigger channels than this one. But it's damaging to people. And then what they did last night by broadcasting the screaming coupled with the gunshot sounds was psychological manipulation. It was abusive. It was it was psychological abuse. Damaging to people. Where's the, I think it's in this story right here. Let me bring this up over here. I think it's this one. It's either CTV or Global to illustrate my point. And I'll preface this by saying Drea Humphrey, I think it was yesterday or the day before. I don't have the clip of it, but she was online and she was live streaming and she was talking about, this was before the call actually happened. And she was talking about the effect that a lot of this was having on the, in her words, the psyche of the protesters, because it's like her speaking out loud, saying the quiet part out loud. She's part of it. She's been involved in basically a psychological manipulation out there, a psyop, if you want to call it that. I hate to use that term because it's overused and it's become something of a cliche and conspiratorial, but absolutely that's what she's doing. She has been doing to people. And then with the gunshot sounds being broadcast, they wanted blood. They didn't get it because, of course, they cut the camera feeds from all the security cameras they had set up around the farm in order to prepare for the call. The farm owners, protesters, they had cameras all over the place. They had that place wired for video, top to bottom. That's why they cut all those cameras, and then they made a big deal out of it, like they were violating their rights after the CFIA seized control of the property lawfully. And so, yeah, they cut the feeds to those cameras because it is a messy business. Go to an abattoir where they cull animals, where they kill the animals every day to cut them into meat. So you can go to McDonald's and get your Big Mac. Let me see here. Where is the quote? To illustrate my point. So they brought in these expert marksmen. This is CTV. Shooting went on for hours Thursday night. Farm's owner, Dave Belinsky, imagined the scene as a marksman shot down on these defenseless animals, wounded birds down there all over the place. Right here. There's the quote. Right there. There are many supporters here right now that right now need mental health support, he said in an interview. Why do they need mental health support? I don't doubt it, but ask yourself, why do the protesters need mental health support? Because this is driving them crazy. Are you being driven crazy? I think the sounds of the gunshots in the darkness with the screaming, the hysterics, I haven't heard wailing like that, with that effective from an information warfare or storytelling perspective in any horror movie that even came close. That was wicked. And on cue. Good thing Drea was there to capture all that on video and live stream that out. Facts be damned. Emotion trumps. Mental health support, that's what they need. So traumatized are these protesters by the culling of ostriches, which some people eat. Culling of ostriches at a farm where, yeah, they have sold those birds for food in the past and even during their research phase during the pandemic, where they were conducting open air experiments in an open air bio lab with COVID antigens. It's true. Now they say they have nothing. Yeah, why? Because they didn't follow the rules. They turned down the compensation. They rolled the dice. They stood up to the government, defied the Cull order, and they lost. They didn't like it. They appealed, lost again, didn't like it, appealed again. Got all the way to the Supreme Court. And they lost. It's taken 11 months. Can't say they didn't get due process. Can't say they didn't have an opportunity to put forth their arguments. What did they achieve? Quite a bit, actually. A lot. They absolutely did. They've generated discussion around the stamping out policy. That might even lead to change. If you think that's the right thing to do, and if you think that the stamping out policy needs to go, this is certainly a step in that direction, because they have more support, simply because they've drawn attention to it. If you think that, what else did they get out of this? They generated funding. Hard to say exactly how much. When they say they've lost everything, don't be so sure. They have the backing of this U.S. multi-billionaire, John Catsimatidis, oil baron, grocery store magnate, broadcast tycoon from the U.S., backing them up. They've been effective in smearing the federal government, discrediting or casting some doubt about the validity even of the government. To what end? Well, we'll get into that in a few minutes. It's been an extremely effective protest. They've achieved a lot in that regard. They didn't win in the end in terms of saving the birds, but you know what? I didn't think that was ever going to happen anyway. It was always possible, but I didn't think it was likely, and that the outcome is kind of exactly where I thought we were going to end up. And honestly, my assessment here is that the protesters got exactly what they wanted. Maybe not the farm owners per se, but the people behind the scenes, and the people even at the front. They couldn't have asked for a better outcome, except if the cull had been done in daylight with all the cameras running and they were able to record blood. That would have been even better for them. Oh, yeah. That footage would have circulated for years, or until Canada is destroyed completely. What was this really about? Well, Katie Pasitny, you saw crying in the video, said that for her, it was about bringing the CFIA to its knees. Cue the tears. And the outrage. Listen to this.
Choosing death every second you stand here and support the CFIA. You're choosing death. You're murdering every second you hear a shot out there in that field. Healthy, beautiful birds. Healthy, beautiful birds the CFIA has tortured since they came on this land. They haven't fed them. They haven't bedded them. They haven't watered them. They've died on their watch of dehydration. And you're supporting those killing bastards who are going to go on to the next farm, and the next farm, and the next farm, and it'll be your house next. You're supporting them.
There's a lot of good
they have no conscience.
They're just caught up in this sick fucking mess of this government. Because I know a lot of you signed up to the RCMPs because
there's the social media choreographer, their manager. This is the guy who gives them all the talking points.
You believe in the oath that you took. You want to serve and protect your country. You want to see Canada be a better place. And that is...
He's trying to convince the officers to stand down and join the protesters. Give up your career.
Why you took that oath. That is why you became officers of the law. You didn't become officers of the law to stand in a line in front of supporters while the CFIA murders innocent animals behind you. You didn't sign up. That wasn't the deal you made when you took that oath. Nobody warned you about that, did they? Did they say, hey, one day you might have to defend a warrant that isn't even an RCMP warrant, that is issued by a government agency that isn't even elected? by an agency given power over the whole food and agricultural industry to kill at will out of speculation and suspicion. You didn't sign up for that. That was not the oath you took. But somewhere along the way, our government decided to abuse the entity that is the RCMP, and use you to do its disgusting, dirty work. That is what I'm frustrated about. Not the fact that you're standing here. The fact that you don't see you're being abused by the very system that you swore to serve and protect. And that is wrong. And it needs to stop. And the future depends on it.
Rebel News. Isn't that an interesting name? Rebel. Rebel News. Rebel. I saw Ezra Levant comment on that one day. It was about maybe 2 years ago, saying if he were to choose a name today, he would choose something different. And yet it seems so fitting. And given the nature of the kind of journalism they've been practicing the last few years, especially the last few, maybe all along, even before I really kind of clued into what they were about, Rebel seems appropriate. Rebel. Anyway, that was Jeff Gaudry. Do I have the clip of Mom? I don't know if I still have her or not. I don't know. Let me take a little break. We're going to come back here on the other side. I've got some other pretty interesting stuff to share with you. PSYOP.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching.
The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
So, as I was saying, CFIA at the time and the RCMP, they were securing the area. I guess that, and of course, it's been like a no-fly zone for drones as well. But one of the activists out there, Luca Robinson, I think, he was getting a zillion views, of course, last night on his social media channels, live streaming the gunshots for maximum emotional impact. But now he has been fined, I guess, I think $1,000 for allegedly flying a drone over the farm. There is footage out there, and now he's been charged. Here's a little clip from him.
Of the law. Mr. Robinson, I've just got to serve you something. Would you rather I do it up there or down?
Sure, here's good. Yeah.
Good. Okay, just going to show you this, okay? I'll read it out to you. Sure. If you have any questions, by all means, let me know. So this is going to be a ticket under the Enforcement of Canadian Aviation Regulations, Part 9 of the Remotely Piloted Aircraft Systems. So you're being issued a violation right now for Section 900.08 sub 1. So no person shall operate a remotely piloted aircraft over or within the security perimeter established by a public authority in response to an emergency. The penalty amount is $1,000. I will serve you a pink copy. That is your copy there.
So is this the white mask or what?
We do have video surveillance of that activity, so please do not do that again. There is a NOTAM in place. You're not allowed to fly drones in this area. Okay?
Never did.
Any questions for me? Have a good day, sir. Drive safe.
Well, there's a court case. Says he didn't do it. I guess we'll find out. Maybe. Okay. Just to kind of make, to just provide some perspective on this. Well, since I was talking about Rebel, I'm going to show you some other stuff. Well, let me show you this first. It's just so many things. Like I said, other calls going on. Animal rights groups have, except for one, have refused to go out there to become involved in this ostrich protest because it was used as it was a food production facility. And so they would not endorse it. And because they were also experimenting on the birds. So virtually every animal rights activist out there was refusing to go and support the farm. Except there is one organization, Animal Justice, I think it's called. They've weighed in on it. Even they, though, have expressed concerns about what the farm has been doing, but still weighed in against the government because they seem to be kind of against both what the farm was doing and the government. Nevertheless, here's just to show you what's been going on at the farm is exactly what other animal rights activists have been doing. And these animal rights groups, largely criticized over time by people in the freedom movement, the patriots movement, whatever you want to call it, because they're left, they're woke. That was always the way it has been. And that's because of protests like this one, where you see these animal rights, extremists trespassing to rescue chickens. This is from Vice News. I won't run too much of this. This is Vice, and there are copyright issues, I think, on some of this stuff. So enough of that. The point is, does that look familiar? Some of them could face up to 60 years in prison. What was Jeff Godry doing yesterday? Trying to bribe police over a megaphone, offering them I think it was 10 grand. That's an offense that can land you in jail for up to 14 years. And then a mindless follower, Rudy Bruce, who's lost his mind, he gets the megaphone next. He starts doing the same thing, following Jeff Godry's lead. Clearly not thinking for himself. It wasn't long ago. That was 6 years ago that documentary was produced. And I can tell you that a lot of you in the audience, you think back to how you viewed things like this, maybe that at that time 6 years ago. You think about the way other people in the movement, going back 4 or 5 years ago, the way 6 years ago, pre-pandemic, people on the conservative side, if you want to look at that, how would they have viewed those animal rights activists? Like they're crazy. I've covered lots of protests like that over the years. A mink farm. There was a mink farm that I covered where activists broke in to set the minks free. think about how people used to view these kinds of protests. Here's another one. Animal rights activists chain themselves to City Hall. This is an older one, just doesn't really matter when. 6 years ago again, ABC 10 News. Is this what you got involved? Like, as I remember the Freedom Convoy and all of that stuff, before the pandemic, it was, for me, economic issues, too much government spending, too much printing of money, those kinds of issues, some social things to a degree, not so much with me. I never focused much on those things personally. For other people, there was what we would refer to back then as cultural Marxism. And so some people became involved, especially, like during the pandemic, there was those issues plus the lockdowns, the vaccines, all of those issues. Now it's animal rights activism. Last year, it was save the children from the pedophiles. This year, it's the ostriches. Out here, 6 years ago, these animal rights activists chained themselves to City Hall.
Animal rights activists arrested after chaining themselves to City Hall, calling for the City Council to take action.
10 News reporter Natay Holmes is downtown, where police waited for almost an hour for protesters to clear out, but they said they wouldn't leave.
Protesters chained themselves to this railing right outside of his City Hall, crossing in front of the building, preventing anyone from coming in and out, forcing police to step in. Protesters want local leaders to take notice of a recent law passed in Berkeley that allows activists to rescue animals like cows and chickens who are hurt or in distress.
It's a pretty big step to ask everyone to stop eating animals, so they're not going quite that far. But what they're trying to do is at least give those animals the right to be rescued if they are in need of medical care.
But we need to make sure that everyone involved is safe and that no laws are being broken. And in this case, we gave plenty of notice, and unfortunately, we had to effect 4 arrests.
San Diego police says it is okay to protest on the property, but it is against the law to impede the flow of business. Protesters from Direct Action Network stood in front of the door to City Hall for about an hour. They tried negotiating with them to get them to leave, and after 45 minutes, San Diego Fire and Rescue and other resources were brought in, and the chains were cut and individuals were taken into custody. Now, protesters want city leaders to implement rules locally that will endorse Rose's Law, which is an animal bill of rights. It extends the rights of animals like those found on a farm to be free, not owned, to not be exploited, abused, or killed by humans, to have their rights represented in court, and the right to be rescued. Shortly after the arrest, those not taken into custody held a rally outside of City Hall. They even thanked police for doing their jobs and executing everything peacefully. In downtown.
So they want rights, like actual rights, for animals. So you at that point, animals could sue. I don't know how they put goldfish on a stand to testify, or a cow, but that's what those people were all about. And we've heard exactly that kind of rhetoric from the ostrich farm during the course of the ostrich protest. Here's another one. And I just say, isn't this kind of, don't you recognize the same kind of rhetoric? Here's animal. Here we go.
Controversial group of the Animal Liberation Front, or ALF, is a secretive and controversial group of animal rights activists known for direct action. Since the 1970s, they've broken into labs, farms, and fur factories to rescue animals and expose abuse. But their illegal methods, including property damage and arson, have led some governments to label them domestic terrorists. While ALF says it avoids harming any living being, critics argue their tactics cross the line. So, are they heroes or extremists?
I'm not saying that what the people out at the farm were doing is exactly like that, because it's its own thing. But I asked this question a long time ago. It was like, what are they going to do next? Throw, I don't know, red paint on artwork in an art gallery to protest the CFIA Cull or stamping out policies? What's next? Because it's pretty clear this protest not over. Here's a pig vigil from 4 years ago. Save the pigs.
Truck hitter.
He was screaming.
Jesus Christ.
Animal rights activist Regan Russell was killed while standing in front of the entrance to Fearman Slaughterhouse.
Fulton police are conducting an investigation.
Regan was there telling the truth about what really happens to these animals, and she was killed as a result.
The industry here is very powerful, and it will stop at nothing to make sure that people can't see the horrific conditions that animals are enduring.
The government says it's trying to protect farmers and animals from trespassers.
Bill 156 is a pro-agriculture act. It essentially stops protesters and extremists from giving water to the pigs like we see down here every couple days.
Who wants to put up with that harassment and get hassled? Look at this. These people here are illegally watering, touching, and stopping and interfering with the truck.
They just want us out of the way. The police want us out of the way. The politicians want us out of the way.
Movements have martyrs. That's the way it goes. This is a moment.
Movements have martyrs. Yeah, out at the ostrich farm, you now have at least 300 martyrs, maybe 330, maybe 398, maybe 400, more 450. I don't know. They don't know how many. Therein is the other thing. Somebody been doing some lying. Oh, yeah. In the last few weeks, they've been turning up the heat on this narrative that the CFIA, in defiance of this Supreme Court stay order, has been killing the birds, throwing them in dumpsters, transporting them out to a gravel pit or someplace, and then disposing of the bodies, except there ain't no bodies because, well, there might have been, but then there weren't because then they started to liquefy the bodies. And then they couldn't count them all. We weren't sure how many there were. Was there, look, all the ostriches are disappearing. And then we saw the reports on redacted. So it must be true from, what's his name, Creighton. Oh, yeah, he ramped that one up. Of course, he said, you know, allegedly. Always left kind of an open question, but then proceeded with the narrative as though it was actually happening. Well, here's the thing. What were we hearing in the gunshots last night? What have been saying in the live streams all day today? Hundreds of gunshots. We were told that there were only a handful of birds left because the rest of them had all been liquefied, killed secretly, and then liquefied. They even showed some farm implement, which was clearly it was not a liquefaction machine. It was there were a couple of different machines they showed that they were supposedly using to liquefy the birds that were just farm tools that they drag behind tractors or pickups. Lying. Straight up lies. If they'd already liquefied most of the birds, why were they out there shooting birds? Well, why were there hundreds of gunshots over hours? Because the birds were all there the whole time. I don't think they were just wasting ammo. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shots. So if they're lying to you about the other thing, what else are they lying to you about? What else have they been lying to you about? Or maybe just more to the point, have they been honest? I'm honestly, I would say I'm glad to see this thing come to an end, some sort of conclusion tonight, but it ain't over. I know that. It's not over. I'll tell you, like it's they've been abusing people. I find that, to me, is what just pisses me right off. To be frank, I it's bad enough when I see people. It's terrible when I see people being lied to. It's terrible when I see people engaging in lying, especially people who portray themselves as journalists. It really pisses me off. And it really, really, really pisses me off when I see that people who know how to use media are using it in a destructive way to screw with your mind, to manipulate you. I've said, you go back and you listen to what I've been saying for a long time. I've been saying that they, whoever they are, have been weaponizing mental illness. They use psychological manipulation. They, the government, governments, plural, they use psychological manipulation to target the mentally, psychologically vulnerable, to get them to do their bidding, to get them to do what they want them to do, to turn them into foot soldiers, to put them in harm's way, or to simply get you to vote a particular way or to stand up, rise up. And they use fear, uncertainty, and doubt. FUD. That's what they've been doing out of that farm. They've been using fear, uncertainty, and doubt on constant repeat, looping it through various, never-ending live stream to create a reality online show. What a circus. That's what it is. Disgusting. Because it hurts people. It hurts you. You can't think straight. Look at the videos online of the people standing there screaming at the police, screaming at the CFIA officers. We've seen that there have been people threatening the CFIA officers. They're not, the people engaging in those kinds of activities, in that kind of behavior, they're not thinking straight. We saw a woman attacked, gasoline thrown on her and her house by someone who was from the farm, an activist. Whether the other people there agreed or supported him or not, that's what happened, because the guy ain't right in the head. Now you see one of the farm owners saying that the people out there actually need mental health assistance, mental health support. Yeah, because of what they've done to you. Turn these birds into personified versions of people. And then traumatize you with the murder of them. To get you so angry, and we've seen the videos out there, so angry that some people are ready to rise up and even, oh yeah, you do the thing to the government, or just do whatever you got. Dial it down, boys. When I was in journalism school, just to share a little lesson, and a lesson through reflection, one of the things that was studied was the Hindenburg disaster. And when I point to like Rebel News and a lot of these other streamers who I do not call journalists, they're activists, mouthpieces. The Hindenburg disaster. Going to run that. This was the live report from the scene back in the 1930s when the Hindenburg crashed and burned. Listen to the reporter. Think about what's happening here.
It's starting to rain again. The rain had slacked up a little bit. The back motors of the ship are just holding it just enough to keep it from... It bursts into flames. Get it started. It's fighting, and it's crashing. It's crashing terrible. Oh, my. Get out of the way, please. It's bursting into flames, and it's falling on the mooring mast and all the folks between it. This is terrible. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the world. Oh, it's like 400 or 500 feet into the sky. It's a terrific crash, ladies and gentlemen. The smoke and the flames now, and the flame is crashing to the ground, not quite to the mooring mast. All the humanity and all the fans are speeding around it. I told you, I can't talk to people and friends are out there. I can't talk, ladies and gentlemen. Honest, it just laying down massive smoking wreckage. And everybody can't hardly breathe and talk and screaming. Lady, I'm sorry. Honestly, I can hardly breathe. I'm going to step inside while I cannot see it. Charlie, that's terrible. Listen, folks, I'm going to have to stop for a minute because I've lost the voice. This is the worst thing I've ever witnessed.
So, the question is, what do you think of that report? Effective? Good? Was that a good report? What do you think? Going to go to the chat over on Rumble. There's Lori. She says they're eating the dogs and they're eating. Yeah, they do. They eat the ostriches out in Edgewood. Anyway, when we discussed that in J school, I think just about everybody in class chimed in and said they thought that was a great report, that it was extremely effective, thought it was great reporting. Just a bunch of kids in class. And then Brian Robel was the professor. And he said, well, I think the guy lost it, which is true. And then everybody stopped and thought about it for a moment. And then they were like, yeah, I guess he kind of did. He lost his shit. At a moment when you needed someone on site who had clarity of mind to provide accurate reporting, this guy has an emotional breakdown. And yet it became one of the most iconic. It is probably the most famous live report, news report ever, the Hindenburg disaster. So there are two sides to that. Effective storytelling, very engaging. It gets lots of clicks, lots of views. How many views does that have? That one there, 115,000. But of course, it's been probably seen billions of times across platforms. So if you want to tell an effective story, if you're just looking for clicks, that's the way you do it. If you want to be accurate and serve the public interest, maybe that's not the way you do it. So it depends on whether you want to be selfish or if you want to serve. I aspire to serve. I am embarrassed to say, and I have been embarrassed every time I've done a Rick rant, where people then turn around and say, Rick, I loved it when you called Justin Trudeau the worst prime minister in Canadian history. which I did many, many times, especially during the pandemic and the lockdowns. But every time I did it, I apologized. I'm sorry I did that. I'm embarrassed by it. I still am to this day. I don't like it when I do things like that, but I am only human. And I have to say, I was that emotionally invested against the lockdowns and the mandates and the overreach of the government at that time. And I still am opposed to all of those things. And I can't say that I won't do it again. I try not to. It was genuine when I did it every single time. Don't get me started. But it's not really professional. I guess I'll never have a network anchor job because of that. Or maybe I will, because if you think back in time, even Walter Cronkite broke down when John F. Kennedy was assassinated. He took his glasses off and had to wipe away a tear. Because even Walter Cronkite, America's anchorman, even he is only human, or was. Me too. I don't hate ostriches, but facts don't care about your feelings.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Astigmatism man returns back to his incognito disguise as Clark Kent. Mild-mannered reporter. Don't go away, because I'm going to run this and then we're going to come back. I'm going to tell you what I think the real reason, one of the main reasons for this whole ostrich protest has been, continues to be, and was.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay. I didn't even want to, I'm tired of talking about these stupid birds. But what was really going on out there? Well, it was an opportunity for political activism because the farm was compromised because of the COVID research it had been doing without permits, because of its involvement with government grants, because it was financially vulnerable, because it was on the financial ropes and desperate, because the birds had been turned into research animals. They had limited, if any, value left as a food source. You can't really sell them, even though they were still doing that. Bottom line is, this is all about the 51st state crap. Largely. This has been an anti-government protest. It's not about the birds. It became an anti-government protest because the people involved in that end of it saw this as an opportunity. It has been really from the beginning, because the people involved in that saw this as the big opportunity to run with it. Here's my point, my proof. I've illustrated this before, and here it is front and center again tonight. Let me see if I've got the clip. I better still have it. Here it is right here. Okay, I've got it. Good. First of all, let me show you the guy. I'm making it up. It's not me speculating. These are words, the words of the people, and in particular this guy here who has done it more than once. This guy, Blake Roberts, key protester out there, involved with the family. What else did Mr. Roberts do while he's been out there? He burned the Canadian flag. Here's the image of that happening. And then Katie Pasitny lied, said that they would never do it, that it didn't really happen, and blah, blah, blah. We ran the video of him doing it and admitting that he did it right there. I just went and found it as we were preparing for tonight's broadcast. Here's a still image of the flag being burned. And that's him posting about it right there, September 21st. Government of Canada, Mounted Police, CFIA arrived, blah, blah, blah. And where's our freedom? Well, what's freedom even mean? It means different things to different people. For Blake Roberts, it seems to mean being American. Well, he pretends that he's a Canadian patriot. He's not a patriot. He burned that flag. He has other videos up saying he hates Canada, and he's spinning up his justification for proceeding down that lane. This protest is about the 51st state. He says so in this video. Watch.
November 7th, 2025. And for a lot of us, it feels like we're in the twilight zone because of what happened yesterday. Specifically Canadians. Prime Minister Carney, on election night, you said things. Well, you said, this is Canada, and we decide what happens here. And you said, you talked about, we do things with kindness and compassion. We decided what happened here last night. There was nothing kind. There was nothing kind or compassionate about what we did last night to that family and to those healthy animals. But yeah, we decided we're Canada. First, Mr. Prime Minister, when all this stuff was going on about the tariffs and the 51st state, and UN Polyev and the other federal candidates spoke up about Canada, I was all in. I didn't vote for you, but I was all in on whoever got elected. I watched the debate, and I watched Yves Francois Brissette. Sorry, I fell his name wrong. From Quebec, he spoke so eloquently. He talked about the leaders all meeting after the election. You all talked about teamwork. It was all bullshit. And after you won, unlike so many other years, I pivoted and I believed in you.
That's bullshit. He never believed in Carney.
I played your election night speech out a lot. And during this whole battle for the ostriches, I played it a lot to people. Posted it on your Facebook. And I begged and I pleaded like so many people did. And so many people said you didn't care when I was saying that's our prime minister. We've got to appeal to him. You didn't say a frickin' word.
Either did Polyev, actually. Just for all you conservatives out there who have been browbeating me.
So during the 51st state thing, I had my backup. Anyone that knows me knows how all in I was in on Canada.
Bullshit!
We stand for nothing. This country stands for nothing. This country stands for evil.
That's what he really thinks.
It stands for complacency. It stands for no compassion. I hope the United States, as this Canadian goes, in my opinion, used to have a Canadian hat. Everybody saw what I did to it last night and what I did to the flag.
Yeah, we did, pal. We did.
I hope the United States rolls over on us. I am all in on the 51st state.
Do I need to play that again? I will.
And everybody saw what I did to it last night and what I did to the flag. I hope the United States rolls over on us. I am all in on the 51st state. And that's on you. That's on you, Mr. Prime Minister.
Right. Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals. Always blame what you're doing on your enemy.
A lot of us said that if you did the right thing, if you cared enough, if you had the compassion enough, if you were a decent human being enough to stop this, you would do more to unite this country. And it was true. What you could have done. Instead, you've torn us apart.
Actually, see, I don't know that the prime minister even had would have the power to stop it. He could weigh in. He could offer up his opinion. At the end of the day, he has one vote in the House of Commons. He's not like a dictator Trump with a Sharpie who can declare through executive order to rewrite the entire CFIA policy and procedure manual. Okay, you just that takes a process. There, Blake. It's not something the prime minister can unilaterally do. Now, he could initiate a process. You could bring it forward in the House of Commons. You could, and if I guess you had enough support, you could get it done. And there are certain instances where the federal government can use emergency powers to do things. But I just don't know if a bunch of ostriches gets us to that level.
A lot of us are angrier than we've ever been before. Our distaste for politicians is larger than it ever has been before.
That's because you're angrier than you ever have been before, because you've been engaging in a gigantic information warfare campaign out there, and it has been a campaign. And the whole objective has been to disrupt and to get people emotionally invested, to get you anger by using fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That's what they've been doing out there from day one with this protest.
For a lot of us, our distaste for this country is larger than it's ever been before.
That's what the campaign is designed to do. Mission accomplished.
Or in my case, it exists. I used to love my country. I hate my country because what we did yesterday is a symbol of evil.
You hated it before, Blake. You were burning the flag before.
We are North Korea. We're the worst parts of Russia. We're the worst part of every dictatorship and lack of kindness and evil that we think others are. That is us. That's who Canada is.
That's the way you want people to think of it. And you know what they did out there is they really backed the federal government and the CFIA into a nonsensical corner. See, the optimum time to cull those birds would have been back in December when the avian flu was detected at the farm, because that's when the risk was at its highest. By using lawfare against the federal government and delaying the process, they externalized the risk associated with the avian flu outbreak on the premises at the time. So any damage that was likely to have happened or spread of the disease that was happening at that time, and I suppose potentially has diminished over time, not really sure. But then you've got all these other legal questions in play and the ongoing health of the birds. And so then it becomes a question of, well, you know, it's sort of a reverse legal procedure where a case might be declared moot, such as was the case after the pandemic when mandates were being challenged by Maxime Bernier, and there was one other person who was involved in a lawsuit, but ultimately was thrown out because it was declared moot because the federal government then weighed in near the end of everything and ended the mandates. So they said, well, we're not going to hear the case because the mandates have been ended. They were just doing the reversal on that through this legal process, putting the government into this situation 11 months later where they're saying, well, they've been alive for 11 months. Yeah, the only reason they weren't called to begin with was because of the lawfare. So then it becomes a question of, well, any farmer then can just launch a legal challenge and instantly nullify the cull order, because if they can drag it out for enough months, the disease will play out and some birds will survive, some birds will die. The disease will spread during that period of time over whatever in time things remain infectious and potentially spreadable, I guess. And then they can just use the legal system against itself in order to achieve whatever objective they're after. That's why it doesn't make sense at this point to a lot of people, but there are other considerations: legal, ethical, moral, political, 51st state issue.
Yeah, the United States, roll over. Take us. 51st, I'm all in. I am all in. I am all in.
Are you going to go down to the States and protest the culls that are still taking place down there, Blake? Because they're still happening on a massive scale. Do you care? Is that really what this is about? This is about the ostriches and the cull order and the stamping out policy that still remains in effect down in the States, even though RFK Jr. has spoken out against it over time. It still remains in place. They're still doing it. They just, you've had U.S. involvement in this. I would say it's been entirely inappropriate. It is political meddling. It is foreign interference in our political system because this is a political protest. And you've had senior officials from the Trump administration, namely RFK Jr., Dr. Oz, and a huge MAGA Trump donor in that multi-billionaire, John Catsimatidis, directly involved in a very public way, manipulating things, funding it. Boy, I don't know what they would have done if an officer had come forward last night and had taken up the offer on the $10,000 bribe to turn in the badge and come join the protesters. That's a bribe. That's an offer to bribe. I don't know, where would the money come from? Am I worried? Should we really be worried about Katie and Karen and the family and the owners of the biggest ostrich farm in all of Canada when we've heard that Mr. Katzimatidis is backing them up and bankrolling things? Did they really lose
Mr. Prime Minister, you were exactly what everybody said you were. You're an elitist. You're a globalist. Go back and play your election night promise. We do things with kindness. We decide what happens here. You decided what happened last night. This is on you.
Well, they were trying to be kind in the beginning because they were offering compensation. And actually, what Blake's also not really telling you is if you read the CFIA guidelines, policy, stamping out policy, there is actually a pathway to a possible exemption. But of course, you would need to be cooperative with the CFIA from the very beginning. They would need to be able to trust you to quarantine your birds, keep them safe and away from wildlife, to follow the rules. And if they had made an appeal on that basis, I've even seen some scientists come out and say that they could have even, lent their support to the farm. There were some interviews that were done in that way. And they said, but they didn't follow the rules ever. They didn't follow the CFIA orders to quarantine. They didn't follow the CFIA orders to put up netting to keep out other birds like ducks from landing in the pond and mingling with the ostriches, which were infected back in December for sure, after going through testing. They didn't do anything to secure the facility. They didn't do any of it. They just said, we can't do that. We can't put up netting. And then they just defied the orders every step of the way, thumbing their nose at the CFIA, at the federal government, at all the rules. So they're not going to entertain a possible exemption because they violated all the rules. So how would they follow the rules moving forward? I hate going down this road and rehashing all of this information that we've brought up here multiple times over the last 11 months. And I'm one of the few voices out there who doesn't care about being part of the crowd, following I got more people today saying, I hope that you change your tone and if you play your cards right, Rick, you could really build your channel. Yeah, but I couldn't sleep at night, knowing that I had thrown my support behind an open air bio research facility for COVID, and that was being run without any permits, not following any rules, that the birds out there had been subjected to, this horrific flu, just allowed to languish and die, 69 of them. They tried to hide it all, blah, blah, blah. And then I don't want to be part of the big lie. That enslaves people. They're enslaving you. They've made you part of their lie. They've made a large part of our country part of their lie. They've been so effective in their information warfare, their selective use of particular kinds of information, not telling the whole truth, just a little bit of truth wrapped up in a narrative that is not honest at all, that a lot of people now just really believe what they've been told by this hopped up, amplified, turbocharged information warfare campaign on the ostrich farm side. A lot of people just think that's what the truth is, and that the government's evil. And What's the purpose? What's the end game? Well, you just heard Mr. Roberts, and it ain't the first time he's said it. It all falls into place. U.S. political intervention, infiltration, interference. Freedom protesters out there, name the names, name the names. Well, Dr. Oz, RFK Jr., Donald J. Trump. Mr. President, please get involved. We need your help. Video from Katie Pasitny directly to the President of the United States. Wake up, Canada.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
One more time.
No, I want down the road now. Please get me down the road. Get me down the road in my car.
Relax.
Get me down the road in my car. Get me down. Move.
No one who told you this is happening.
Get me down the road. Dark guns are one thing. Fucking guns are another thing. Get me down the fucking road.
You can have a freak out, or we can make a plan and
Do not judge me in a time like this.
Where is Adeline?
I don't know.
Okay.
How do I know where Adeline is?
Calm down and we find Adeline. It might not work, but it's something.
What? What, honey?
Katie,
stop.
Do not go there.
I'm fucking going there. It's gonna get no.
Katie,
no.
you cannot be arrested.
I'm not gonna be arrested. This is gonna give me my fight to fucking take them down. I gotta go. I'll be right back. Please take me to 301 or to the Langell Road. Please.
We're not gonna let you fucking go out of here.
Live now, just so you know that we're being recorded.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, the first thing we should be doing is finding Adeline.
No, I want to go. You can drop me off at the road. I want to go, and I want to be on the road, please. I want to. Please. I want to be on the road, please. Can I go down the lane? Anywhere. Fast, please. Yeah. Katie, I love you, okay? Love you. Please be strong, okay? Yeah. You know, this is broken my heart. I love you. And you know what? I am so sorry. I'm gonna call you tomorrow, okay? Please, bye-bye. Please do, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
I don't like to see people cry. I don't. I don't hate ostriches. Didn't have to be this way. And Canada still has a choice. Don't we? I think so. You're going to make that decision. You're going to lend your support one way or the other based on facts or feelings. I'll be back. Don't go away.
Maverick News isn't just a news outlet, it's a community of truth seekers. Your donation at freedomreporters.com fuels our mission to report the stories that mainstream media won't touch. Thank you, Maverick family.
Let's move on. I have some other important stuff to talk about tonight, and you're not going to want to miss the video that I'm going to run near the end. It'll leave an impression on you. It's factual, and it will certainly leave an emotional impression on you. Away from the ostriches to an actual real human being who made a big difference for humanity, controversial, has passed away. James Watson. Genius. One of the people who discovered the double helix for DNA passed away. Gonna pause here again for just a moment while I queue up a little bit of, I've got several things about him that I want to show you tonight. So stay with me, because this is an important conversation that nobody else is really talking about out there this evening.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
so interesting. I say that nobody else is really talking about it, and yet, while we've been on this broadcast, I just did a quick search and I see that some mainstream media now, just even within the last few hours, is picking up on this story, which actually was brought to my attention by Stoic Teacher. And thank you for sending me the link on this. I appreciate it. James Watson, born April 6th, 1928, was an American molecular biologist known for his pivotal role in shedding light on the double helix structure of DNA. Now, that was a discovery that revolutionized genetics and modern biology. He was born in Chicago to a family that valued education and intellectual pursuits. He displayed academic promise, even signs of genius, early on in his life, and earned a zoology degree from the University of Chicago at the age of just 19 in 1947, and a PhD from Indiana University in 1950, focusing on genetics. And then in 1951, he joined the Cavendish Laboratory at the University of Cambridge, where he collaborated with Francis Crick, drawing on X-ray diffraction data at King's College, London. Watson and Crick proposed the DNA double helix model in 1953. And that elegant structure of the two intertwined strands forming a twisted ladder, I'm sure you've all seen it, explained how genetic information is stored and replicated and transmitted. It even relates to what has been going on out at that ostrich farm, because going back to the 1990s, even that farm was, from the very beginning, engaged in eugenics research through selective breeding research, which was done in collaboration with the University of British Columbia at the time, as acknowledged, confirmed by Dr. Stephen Pellick in his extended interview with us on that ostrich program, which ran for like 8 hours. I think that's a record in terms of length of an interview. So thank you, Dr. Pellick, for entertaining us for that length of time. Anyway, the work earned the two scientists the 1962 Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine, and Franklin died in 1958, not eligible for the posthumous award, and has since been recognized as an equal contributor. Because there was this other guy, Franklin, who became involved in the research as well. Anyway, Watson's career extended far beyond the breakthrough. He taught at Harvard from 1955 to 76, authored some textbooks, including Molecular Biology of the Gene. In 1968, became director of Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory in New York, transformed that into a global hub for molecular biology research over his 70-year association. He directed the Human Genome Project from 88 to 92, accelerating efforts to map human DNA and laying groundwork for biotechnology, gene therapy, forensics, personalized medicine. You're seeing that come to play even in mRNA research and the development of mRNA vaccines and other treatments that are related to mRNA technology, maybe even cancer treatments. We're being promised that kind of medicine in the future. If effective, if safe, we will see. Anyway, in his 1968 memoir, The Double Helix, became a bestseller, but drew controversy because it was candid. Sometimes it was even providing unflattering portrayals of colleagues, including Franklin, the people he had worked with. Now, Watson's legacy is complicated by his later controversial statements. And in 2007, he suggested genetic differences explained IQ disparities between racial groups. That prompted widespread condemnation for promoting what they called pseudoscientific racism. He kind of faded off into the background, resigned from positions. And in 2019, there was a documentary that showcased similar views, leading to the revocation of his honorary titles. He was shunned, essentially. There were attempts made to basically cancel him. And he was very much kind of a guy who didn't really have much in the way of filters when it came to speaking to people. I think that's one of the things that led to him getting into trouble. He apologized many times, but stood by most of his claims, arguing for open scientific discourse, free speech, essentially. But the incidents where his statements about particularly, IQ, genetic differences, they got him into a lot of hot water with people who are politically correct. And his statements overshadowed his scientific achievements in his later years. He remained a figure of immense influence, though. Now, he passed away yesterday at the age of 97 in hospice care at a facility in East Northport, New York. His son, Duncan Watson, has confirmed his death, confirming it first to the New York Times, and has stated that Watson had been hospitalized earlier in the week for an infection before being transferred to hospice. Other reports are describing it as a brief illness with the exact cause not publicly specified beyond the infection. I have some content queued up here. This is James Watson on the origins of eugenics. This is a video posted by the Australian realist like 10 years ago. And of course, this is a very sensitive subject, eugenics, genetics in general. And some people, there's hard truth in a lot of this stuff that a lot of people just don't want to acknowledge or face. And yet at the same time, I acknowledge that this is a dangerous area because you have to temper your scientific truth with ethics and morals and strike a balance in here somewhere.
This is Charles Davenport, effectively the first director of the Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, and the scientist who brought Cold Spring Harbor into the field of genetics. After Mendel's laws were rediscovered in 1900, Davenport immediately sensed they might be applicable to humans, and to the idea of Francis Galton, Charles Darwin's cousin, who coined the word eugenics, the improvement of humans through better breeding. Galton believed that the differences between humans were inherited, and he wrote a book about hereditary genius, and thought geniuses should marry other geniuses and have lots of children. And but there was no way of proving whether these ideas were right or wrong because Galton didn't understand the mechanism of inheritance. These ideas were considered highly progressive. Prominent individuals like Theodore Roosevelt thought eugenics was great. And because at that time they didn't really know how to handle the unfit. They were in poorhouses, homes for mentally disabled children. No one liked these. And if somehow the unfit could vanish, society would be much happier. Here's a little pamphlet by Charles Davenport, published in 1910, called Eugenics, and it was published for the YMCA Health League. And the first chapter is called Fit and Unfit Matings. And it's interesting to see the first sentence. There comes a time in the life of most thoughtful, cultured people when they realize they are drifting toward marriage, and when they stop to consider if the proposed union will lead to healthful, mentally well-endowed offspring. But however much such a person may take the advice of books or friends, he will find much lack of definitive knowledge that shutting his eyes to possible disaster, he decides to take the chances. I'm not sure that's good. Were our knowledge of heredity more precisely formulated, there is little doubt that many certainly unfit matings would be prevented. And other fit matings that are avoided through false scruples would be happily contracted. Oh, I think his heart was in the right direction, in possibly a narrow fashion. He was really interested in the fit and wanted to protect fit families from having unfit children. So whether you called him compassionate or not, he wanted to take care of his own breed. Well, he certainly was a good scientist in that, he was the first, to establish a department of genetics in the United States. He immediately sensed that the rediscovery of Mendel's laws was a big event. Possibly you could understand or put into practice Francis Galton's wish of eugenics, the selective improvement of humans through better breeding. The thing was to identify unfit families. Well, how did you avoid the unfit? And it fed into racial prejudice. And one way to avoid the unfit was not to let them in the United States. So he decided that people from Northern Europe were much more fit than those people from Southern or Eastern Europe. And his sidekick here, Harry Lawland, was an advisor to the U.S. Congress, who in 1924 passed the infamous Immigration Act that greatly cut back immigration from Southern and Eastern Europe. So effectively, no more Italians immigrated to the United States. Likewise, Jewish immigration was shut off. By the time the 1930s arrived, many people effectively thought Davenport had lost his bonkers. Eugenics was just silly prejudice. Unfortunately, as it lost favor in the United States, Hitler came to power in Germany and liked very much the ideas of the unfit, and he wanted to get them out of German life. Davenport's interests, I think, always were human beings, so he wanted to know how much of human existence could be explained by genes moving through families. And one of their, basic ideas for eugenics was better breeding. And so the eugenics world had booths at agricultural fairs in which you didn't display prize sheep, but you displayed prize families. And now it seems pretty ridiculous when you look at the pictures. You can't really understand why anyone would call these prize people, but they wanted healthy families, and here's one of eugenics and health exhibits. So the idea was if someone had particularly mental disease in the family, you didn't want to marry into it. And of course, as a result, people hid mental disease. You wouldn't want to admit that your aunt was a bit wacky. Then you might have difficulty in having your daughter married. Here's a pedigree which goes several generations, and it starts off with insanity on one side, and there was a sibling to the insane person, and it looked like normal on the other side. But you can see that among the large number of children, it seemed to be 14, there were feeble-minded, there was alcoholic, insane. A number of them were called insane. One was called psychopathic. Then you go down to the next generation, and it's less clear because there's some normals, but one is called alcoholic. And by the time you get down to the fourth generation, about all they can say is small children, as if this was in some way. So you can see it really was very inexact. I think it was a mixture of compassion and despair. Compassion that they couldn't take care of themselves, and somewhat despair that public funds were in some way going to have to support them. So it was a burden on society, and I think the financial burden was in their minds. who paid for these institutions. And what particularly worried them was they thought the feeble-minded read even faster than other people. You know, they were promiscuous, and you know, they just weren't moral. I mean, that's the way, of course, they looked at it, and so they saw them as, in real sense, downers in a society, and we should do everything possible to reduce their numbers. And so one of their pamphlets, The Burden of the Feeble-Minded, and Emma W. You know, just had a series of illegitimate children, and their idea was to put them in institutions where they couldn't have children. It was order from the top, you know. You couldn't really defend yourself. The judges had the right to say, sterilize you. Civil liberties in those days were primitive compared to what they are today. Well, taking away the right of a woman to have a child, you could say, what worse could you do to a woman? But in those days, they said, you know, it would be even worse for you to have descendants, and not fair because you couldn't take care of the child. In some cases, they're right, but in a lot of cases, they were wrong, you know, that because the whole genetics of, quote, feeble-mindedness was a mess. No one had real genes, and it was arbitrary whether you said, you know, there was really feeble-mindedness in the next generation. So, human genetics, you know, there was no, it wasn't like animal genetics where you could do crosses. You just observed crosses or hoped they were actually the crosses you thought they were, and tried to follow through families. This was, you know, done sort of chaotically initially, and then at Cold Spring Harbor, they set up the eugenics record station just to do masses of pedigrees, and thousands were obtained here. Sort of college-educated women came here and were taught how to take pedigrees. And they all thought they were doing good things. They were going to, you know, prevent the unfit from taking over the world. I think it's a sort of warning. I think, you know, some things probably are bound to happen. And when Mendel's laws were rediscovered, people were going to see whether they could explain the differences between the fit and unfit. And after about 20 years, it was clear they couldn't. But the movement went on, and like many movements, when its time has passed, they still go on, and now we're embarrassed by it, but you know, it's not to the point where you don't want to talk about it. In fact, you do want to talk about it, because I think it was a case where science, or lack of science, was confused for science. There wasn't much good about the eugenics movement. They really couldn't identify good families. And there's calling people genetically unfit was generally, you know, without reason. It wasn't clear that these families were alcoholic or thieves because of genes. You know, you could have very easily said, you know, they were just the victims of awful fate. You lose your job, or you know, what do? You can't support your family. Your family breaks apart because of poverty. Here's the legislative status of eugenical sterilization in the United States up to 1935. One can see that the majority of states like California or Michigan or Minnesota, Virginia, North and South Carolina, they permitted it. A number of other states, laws had never really moved forward, like Ohio or Kentucky or Tennessee or Arkansas, Colorado, Nevada. In many cases, you could say these were relatively unpopulated states. Texas was considering it, and Illinois and Pennsylvania and New Jersey. New Jersey had no sterilization, so it was really an institution in New Jersey which first claimed that mental defectiveness ran straight through families. Here's an apparent 5-generation family where feeble-mindedness just runs through the thing, and you can see here F, 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 and but up on top you could wonder, how did they really know these things? I rather doubt the whole thing. And I wonder how many of these kids went to school, or under what conditions, and how they were tested, and who said this. But this was the sort of thing which affected social policy, the legislation. These sort of diagrams were shown, and legislatures who really didn't understand the science or the strength of it passed laws really upon the urging of a relatively small number of people who had it on their social agenda: sterilize the unfit.
Wow. Talk about a political and scientific minefield. He, Mr. Watson, had to navigate through all of that throughout his career. And then as political correctness took hold in the later years, he paid a very heavy price. He was stripped of his Nobel Prize. Well, not actually stripped, he had to sell it. And this is a report from, how many years ago now? This is 10 years ago. NBC reporting that a billionaire, a Russian billionaire at the time, purchased the Nobel Prize so that he could give it back to James Watson.
The biologist James Watson was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1962 for his work in discovering the structure of DNA. This past weekend, Watson's prize medal was auctioned off by Christie's for $4.1 million, and he's donating the proceeds to 3 academic institutions. Now, this man who bought the medal, a billionaire considered the wealthiest man in Russia, says he's giving it back to Watson. He says it's unacceptable that Watson felt the need to sell it in the first place, and he adds he wanted to repay Watson for his contributions to scientific research.
What a crazy life. Speaking of eugenics and the ostriches, and people losing their minds, PSYOP, psychological warfare. You think you're not affected by it? Even I'm affected by the emotional side of it. I don't like to listen to Katie Pasitny scream and holler and wail, or her mom cry. I don't like to hear it. I take no pleasure in it. I question it, some of the authenticity, but I think they're victims of their own PSYOP in large part. And if you think you're not vulnerable, think again. As I was preparing for tonight's broadcast, I was thinking back to the 1970s. And there was something that I thought, even as a child at the time, it was absolutely freaking ridiculous. And I never partook in the purchase of a pet rock. Are those ostriches out there? Were they pets? Ted Nugent, recruited as one of the social media influencers to bring his weight to bear on the ostrich farm political protests the other day, ran his clip, and he referred to those ostriches as pets. And Katie Pasitny and her mom referring to them as their babies. They're killing my babies, they said. And then James Watson talking about mental illness, I've been talking about the weaponization of mental illness. Look how vulnerable people are to mass media campaigns. Pet rocks. People bought these things by the millions.
A fad that started in 1975. It was one of the biggest gift crazes in American history. Pet Rocks was the brainchild of Gary Dahl. It was a guy's night out in April of 1975 at a local bar in Los Gatos, and Dahl was working as a freelance advertising copywriter. He was out with some of his friends at a dinner, listening to them complain about all the work involved in caring for a pet and how much of a pain they were. All the feeding and walking, not to mention having to scoop all the poop. Dahl couldn't relate because he didn't have a pet of his own, but to join into their conversation, he told them he had no problem because his house pet was a rock. Gary declared that his pet never caused him any trouble whatsoever. How so? Rather than keep a golden retriever, a Siamese, or a guinea pig, he had a pet rock. It was a dumb joke, but one that Dahl instantly thought might just be silly enough to work. His joke was a good laugh, but an idea sunk in for the advertising pitchman, Dahl thought. What if there were a pet that did not require any care or feeding? He realized his cute remark may actually have real commercial possibilities, and being able to own a rock as a pet was no longer just a joke.
How do...
Yeah, and it took off.
Gary Rock. Gary settled on the smooth rocks of Rosarito Beach in Baja California, Mexico, which he had first purchased at a building supply store. Within a couple weeks, he talked a couple of workmates into becoming investors. Securing $10,000 in investments from these two colleagues, Dahl sourced rocks from a local supplier and prepared to launch his unconventional project. They hit the local hardware store together, where they literally bought a truckload of smooth beach stones for about 1 penny each. Packaging was the next challenge, so he designed a custom cardboard box with ventilation holes, straw bedding, and a handle mimicking a pet carrier. He printed stenciled lettering on the side stating, "This box contains one genuine pedigreed pet rock." He quickly set up writing his 34-page The Care and Training of Your Pet Rock manual. It included instructions for teaching the rock to stay, sit, and play dead, and touted the rock's long lifespan as a faithful companion. It would not need to be fed, walked, bathed, groomed, and would never become sick or disobedient. One funny little instruction included, if when you remove the rock from its box, it appeared to be excited, place it on some old newspapers. The manual read, "The rock will know what the paper is for and will require no further instruction. It will remain on the paper until you remove it." "Your pet rock will be a devoted friend and companion for many years to come," stated Dahl's book, which featured illustrations of the rock in action. Rocks enjoy a long lifespan, so the two of you will never have to part, at least not on your pet rock's account. Once you have transcended the awkward training stage, your rock will mature into a faithful, obedient, loving pet with but one purpose in life.
Okay, enough. I had enough of the pet rocks back in the 70s. I knew people who bought them. I remember going to the department store at the local shopping mall. There it was. I walked in one day. I was just a kid. Right in the center aisle, there was a whole table, a display of these stupid pet rocks, except they weren't those pet rocks. Other people had started to produce pet rocks, and they would decorate them and stuff. And they had a table full of these decorated, stupid pet rocks for sale at, it was actually at the time, I think it was called Save-Et. They were Save-Et department stores, no longer in business now. And they were selling. I looked at them and I'm not doing that. But see, even then, I was something of a maverick. Don't go away. I have more important things to talk about on the other side.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, back in Canada, we have the federal budget still front and center. Some more debate today in the House. And another confidence vote. Liberals survived it. Tories are in still a state of turmoil. Here, let's just bring this up. Here's CTV. This budget's going to pass, just so you know. Anything else at this point is drama. But it's still interesting. You see these parties jockeying for position. We'll see where it all goes and who comes out with something, because they'll want something to support the Carney Liberals, whether it's the NDP or Elizabeth May or whomever. The Conservatives, we've seen some cross the aisle to support the government. Conservatives helped the minority Liberal government survive a second confidence vote on the budget this afternoon. The House of Commons recorded a vote of 307 against a Bloc Québécois motion to reject the budget and 30 in favor. On Thursday, the Bloc and NDP teamed up to vote against a Conservative motion that also called on MPs to reject the budget. It caps off a chaotic week in Parliament after Nova Scotia MP Chris d'Entremont crossed the floor to join the Liberals on the day the budget was released. And then yesterday, Conservative MP Matt Genereux announced plans to resign after days of rumors he was planning to join the government. The budget itself is set to go to a vote during the week of November 17th. And then if it is passed, the budget itself, I believe, will take effect in April. $78.5 billion deficit. Various numbers being thrown around. That's where it sits right now. We'll see where it ends up in the end. It is, I think, one of the most ambitious, if not the most ambitious, fiscal plans in Canadian history. That's a whole lot of coin, and that's a whole lot of debt, baby. Ouch. Now, what I'm going to say is this. I have a couple of very interesting videos to share with you this evening. And we have a big audience tonight. Sorry, all the people who say that the channel is just dying. It's not. We have way more people watching on several of the platforms tonight than we normally do. So thank you to all the new viewers. Please like, share, subscribe. It would really help the channel out. And if you do that, it helps me stay on here and bring more facts that don't care about people's feelings. Stop laughing, Rick. That's really cruel. I'm sorry. Not sorry. Now, because I have this one video, we're going to get into this. Is all stuff from Maverick Midnight Matinee. For our new viewers on some of these platforms tonight, on Fridays, we usually run a movie. We call it Maverick Midnight Matinee. Usually some old classic thing, or usually I try to find content that relates to some of the top news stories of the week. And tonight is no exception. Well, yes, it is kind of an exception. No, it isn't. This all has to do with nuclear war. But I can't run it on YouTube. YouTube doesn't like it when we run this stuff. So we tend to get strikes or copyright issue things. And so we always dip off and bring Maverick Midnight Matinee to you over on our Rumble platform and all the other platforms, just not on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube tonight, please go find our Rumble channels and come join us over there. Subscribe over there. We'd never get into any trouble over there. At least we haven't so far. That being said, you never know what's coming around the corner in terms of censorship. So what I'm going to do is we're going to close off this segment of the program, the regular Maverick News broadcast. And this stuff, what I'm going to bring to you tonight is powerful. I previewed this video, and it really struck home with me. And so I'm eager to bring it to you and share it with you. And I hope that if you're watching on YouTube, you can join us over on Rumble this evening. Just look for the Maverick News channel. The title of tonight's Maverick News channel video is Ostrich Cull in BC complete, but Fallout just beginning. You just put on those keywords or just Maverick News Freedom Reporters and the channel will pop up. And you can join our live feed over there. Now, what are we going to leave you with here tonight? Also, for our new viewers, what I've been doing of late is we have a whole bunch of songs, not a whole bunch, but quite a few, that we've created with our in-house band, Maverick and the News Brothers. And we're going to share with you this evening a closing tune, which we have made sort of a regular occurrence here. We do it like pretty much every night. And this is, well, it's actually, I think it might be my favorite tune now. Hang on here a second. Isn't that weird? It is weird. Stuff is like gone. What's happening? Well, that's okay. I don't want to do anything too anticlimactic here. I don't want to lose too many of you as I go through this weird computer problem and find this stuff for you. It has disappeared, folks. Isn't that strange? Well, that being said, then let's just do it the simple way, shall we? We'll close off tonight's broadcast, come back on the other side with Maverick Midnight Matinee. If you're watching on YouTube, you have to go over to Rumble right now. And this is probably appropriate given that we have some people out of that Ostrich Farm that clearly want to make Canada the 51st state. Here's Maverick and the News Brothers and Trump Traitors. See you guys over on Rumble on the other side with Maverick Midnight Matinee.
Didn't pick this fight, but here it came. Now I wanna play in a traitor's game. They sell us out for a tax cut deal. Shake his hand while they rob and steal. They call us blind, they call us weak, but they're the ones on their knees to the thief. Wave our flag while they burn it down, marching to the sound of a tyrant's cry. Patriots, they're bought and sold. Trade our land for American gold. Singing his tune, dancing his way, but they'll cry for Canada when it's too late. Yeah. Trump traitors, selling us out, burning our home for a tax break now. They stand with the wolves, spit on the brave, but they'll beg for Canada when it's in its grave. They talk real tough, but they bow real low, licking his boots while they put on a show. They chant his name, raise their fists up high, while the real ones fight to keep us alive. They don't fight fair, they twist the truth, say they're the future, but they kill the roots. They laugh now, but watch them run when the north wind howls and justice comes. Traitors, selling us out, burning our home for a tax break now. They day soon, the tide will turn, and traitors pay when the fires burn. No statues raised, no banners flown, just names in dust where the traitors roam. Selling us out, burning our home for a tax break. Now they stand with the wolves, spit on the brave, but they'll beg for Canada when it's in its grave. Trump traitors, Trump traitors, Trump traitors. Trump traitors! Trump traitors! Shame.
Okay, folks. If you're watching on YouTube, we're signing off now as we bring you tonight's feature presentation. Presentations, there's more than one tonight, on Maverick Midnight Matinee. See you on Rebel. All right, welcome back to Maverick Midnight Matinee, all you Maverick Midnight Matinee maniacs.